Hello YouTube, Salivate Metal here, and I'm always amazed at the breadth of knowledge here in the YouTube silver community and gold community. And that's part and parcel to videos where I ask for your opinions on things and your reasoning behind it, and I'm always fascinated and impressed at the different perspectives there are about certain things. Well, it's having a conversation with someone who is all in gold, usually, but has been buying more silver lately. And I was sent from him this link to this chart, which actually I have seen before in a previous video some time ago, but found it fascinating again and was kind of looking at it and noticed some trends that I've not really heard mentioned before that I'll discuss here. There are many in the community that feel that the gold to silver ratio will tighten up, and I feel that could happen as well too, but I'm probably not as bullish on that occurring for the reason I'm about to explain uh, later on in the video. But as for now, I wanted to make a note of a trend that I'm seeing really since the inception of the records being shown here from historical data going back to just over 100 years ago here to 1915. Very fascinating indeed. And it's a little harder to see here, but you can kind of give an indication here that you'll notice that the widest portions of the gold to silver ratio either are at just right at a recession or just after, and in some cases, or maybe one case that I've seen, just before a recession. The gray lines that you see here represent recessions. And some of you may note here, you can kind of see here that there's a recession about between once and every 5 to 9 years. And we're actually due for one now, and we very well could actually be in one now if they revise the GDP numbers. We're at such slow growth now that some people believe and feel that with the policies that have been implemented by the Federal Reserve and governments around the world, that this next recession could be really bad. And so we shall see what happens there. One thing of note, you'll see that the highest portions, the highest ratios occur here during the recessions or just after. In this case, we see it occurring almost in between these two recessions here, between the 40s. And I think that's part and parcel to World War II, possibly, or leading up to World War II for the United States involvement. But of course, global factors, geopolitical factors certainly do play a part in all of this. But let's narrow this chart down a bit, and let's take a look at how the gold to silver ratio has been affected in these recessions since the 70s. And as you can see, again, the trend continues here, but and you see the spike for it here in the late 60s, just before the recession hit, and then it spikes down in the recession, and that's kind of an anomaly. But you can see that it happens very near there. In every case, these increases and these spikes in the GSR occur just before or just after or right at the recession. In this case, it's just right before and right after here in the 70s, and you can see this is where the oil embargo was in the early 70s. And then here we have the Hunt brothers in 1980, and we see that go down to its record low, which actually, if I get to it, it went down to 14. So there it is, 14, which is right around the area of the natural gold to silver ratio. And by that, I mean that for every ounce of gold that comes out of the ground, there is approximately between 10 and 15 ounces of silver that comes out of the ground. So for the first time in modern history, in just before 1980, we see the gold to silver prices match the natural ratio of gold and silver, which is quite fascinating. And it took silver going to almost $50 an ounce there to make that happen. And the other time it went to $50 an ounce it doubled that. It was down to 30 to 1 in 2011 there. So quite fascinating indeed. And we see again that in most cases after recessions, we see the ratio tighten up a bit. And so here we see it after the early 80s recession. It spiked and then it went down. And then in 1990, it went up to 100 to 1. Quite fascinating. And it really stayed up for a while. And it really held that for quite some time before the 90s. And then we have the small recession there into 2000. So going into tightening up a bit here, we see, let's get a little closer to modern history. Most people in the YouTube silver community are intimately aware of the recession, sometimes known as the Great Recession of the late 2000s. Here we see that spike again in the 80s, and it's it actually went up to 20-year highs here, and we can see that it's right up at 20-year highs, and it's starting to tighten up a bit now. So one has to wonder, here it's starting to really, with these prices going up here recently, one has to wonder how far will it dip down and where it tightens up. And my feeling is that because of the nature of silver, the unique nature of silver nowadays, where its uses are more versatile now than ever before in industry, in the biomedical field, and in the technology fields, that my feeling is that though the ratio may tighten, I don't think it will tighten as much as it did here in 2011, or obviously in 1979, 1980. I believe that it will still be relatively wide for various reasons because of its industrial use and its as a commodity. I think as commodities rise, so will silver. But as far as it rising because it's a safe haven, as a precious metal like gold, I believe that we won't see it tighten up as much. But it's anyone's guess. Everyone's been making predictions about this upcoming recession, which we actually could be in now if the powers that be revise the numbers back for the GDP, because it's such slow growth now. It's basically not growing. And who knows where we will end up. Anyways, there you go. What are your thoughts about the gold to silver ratio? Coming up, feel free to post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.